Aircraft mechanics have a very important job. They keep the thousands of airplanes flying every day safe. But experts say there's a critical shortage of aviation maintenance technicians that can't keep up with growing demand.
It's already impacting the ability to grow. An aircraft is on the ground and I don't have a mechanic to fix it.
The fatal accident between an American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter in Washington, D.C. has cast a light on how much pressure there is on an already strained industry where the slightest of variables determine safety. Boeing estimates that 716,000 technicians are needed worldwide to maintain the global air fleet over the next 20 years.
Demand from a Boeing or an Airbus for brand new aircraft, it's strong and it'll be strong for years plural, and that is all driven by more people flying.
The current shortage of AMTs in the U.S. will reach roughly 25,000 workers by 2028. And as more people and goods fly, the global air fleet is expected to grow, adding nearly 46,000 new aircraft between now and 2043.
A United Airlines Boeing 777 bound for Japan had a wheel fall off during takeoff.
2024 brought increased attention to aircraft maintenance, with airlines losing tires or pieces of planes mid-flight, and especially the near catastrophe with Alaska Airlines after Boeing didn't reinstall bolts that hold the door plug in place. The Federal Aviation Administration has also struggled with staffing shortages and funding in recent years. Jobs like air traffic controllers or maintenance carry a responsibility with them that one mistake could injure or kill hundreds of people.
These go on aircraft that fly millions of people every day. We're there to keep people safe.
Companies like GE Aerospace and aircraft maintenance schools are working to train the next generation of AMTs.
It feels like it's such an honor and a privilege to work on something like this, like a machine that flies.
CNBC visited GE in Lafayette, Indiana, and Aviation High School in Queens, New York, to explore the challenges facing the aviation industry and how it plans to keep up with the demand for mechanics and technicians. The U.S. aviation maintenance industry is a $65 billion business that employs roughly 329,000 people. The work done by an AMT can vary from overhauling an entire plane to specific sections or components. The majority of the workforce is in repair shops and parts manufacturing, and 23% work for airlines. A shortage of AMTs could slow down production or lead to delays, cancellations, even fewer flights. But these workers are also crucial to the global supply chain, military, and emergency services like aerial firefighting. The pandemic brought a sharp drop in air travel. At one point, over 16,000 commercial jets were grounded, and thousands of experienced technicians and machinists were laid off or retired.
People forget that the aerospace industry was in a pretty serious ramp at the time pre-COVID. And then, frankly, of course, overnight, we went from ramping to zero demand over time. And so we lost a lot of talent.
GE dominates the commercial engine space when combined with its joint venture with Safran CFM International. The CFM 56 is the best-selling jet engine in history. It powers more than 14,000 commercial and military aircraft, while its new LEAP engines power more than 3,500. The company said it's been able to hire back quickly, but that the aerospace supply chain still hasn't fully recovered. A single jet engine on a commercial aircraft can be made up of 40,000 components.
We need everything to be healthy, everyone be back up to full strength. So often it's our tier 2, tier 3 suppliers that are still in that process and may have some of that risk yet that they haven't seen flow through their workforce.
The number of new mechanic certificates rose 32% in 2023, but the overall number of certified mechanics has stayed near the same level over the past 20 years.
The blue-collar segment of our population has declined, and now aviation seeks and oftentimes needs the best, highest caliber technicians that can then be turned into certificated mechanics or repairmen.
The FAA has specialized certificates on who can perform and approve maintenance before a part or a plane is approved to fly.
The work of non-certificated people has to be supervised by certificated people, and certificated people have to approve for return to service.
If a maintenance issue does occur, certified individuals or the company could be fined. The process to get certified for these positions can take years depending on the specific job. GE said that a technician working at its Lafayette, Indiana facility makes an average of $80,000 to $90,000 a year in base pay.
When they walk through the front door, my training is not over. In fact, it goes on for years, in many cases at GE Aerospace and a lot of our peer companies before they're fully formed, fully functional, fully efficient.
Each facility can perform maintenance on what it's been approved for, which the FAA breaks down into different categories like airframe and power plant, which refer to aircraft and engines. They are also known as A&P licenses.
That's your license to learn. You don't know anything about a 737 or an Airbus or a 777 when you get your A&P license.
American Airlines has the world's largest commercial aircraft maintenance facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So when we bring them in, we certainly put them through a lot of training over the course of their first few years, and then that training continues through the rest of their career.
Commercial airlines have to complete a continued airworthiness maintenance program to ensure aircraft are airworthy and safe for passengers throughout an aircraft's life.
Line maintenance manages the active airplanes that we're flying revenue passengers for every day. When you look at base maintenance, we're behind the scenes. We take the heavier work, and no different than changing the oil in your car or rotating the tires, we have similar tasks that we have to do. But instead of just a handful on your car, we have thousands. And those thousands of tasks are accomplished over the course of the life of the aircraft. And so over the course of 20 years, you may see a heavy maintenance event 4, 5, even 6 times.
Big airlines like American and aerospace manufacturers like Airbus, Boeing, and GE have had apprentice programs for decades to recruit new talent.
I was just kind of looking for that next thing, next challenge, for myself. And it's like, well, automotive stuff's cool, but working on jet engines, that's, pretty awesome too.
Crystal Godinez is part of the first graduating class from GE Aerospace's newest apprentice program in Lafayette, Indiana. At this facility, the company assembles and repairs LEAP-1A and LEAP-1B engines that are used on the Airbus A320neo and Boeing 737 MAX planes.
Working on aircraft engines, like turbine engines, is definitely different than working on automotive. You're working with a lot of parts, a lot of bigger things.
Commercial aviation is a long-cycle business and requires making a lot of decisions years in advance, including hiring.
It is not a spigot where you just turn on the tap and you have a ready now fully functional aerospace employee that's going to work in a factory.
Airlines and manufacturers also partner with technical schools to ensure it will have enough AMTs in the future.
Boeing started coming to us after the pandemic. As the pandemic was kind of winding down, there's an increasing demand for more programs like this.
Aviation High School in Queens, New York has been teaching airplane maintenance to students for 89 years.
We get 4,000 applicants for 500 seats across the 5 boroughs, where they spend multiple periods a day working in their aviation maintenance classroom alongside aviation maintenance teachers who are FAA certified. They've worked in the airlines, they have the experience, and the great majority of those teachers graduated from the school.
Seeing all the engines that they work on, it was really cool. Because I never thought that a school like this existed in New York City.
I'm going to start working with the airline as I go to college to get my associate's degree in aviation maintenance, and then I'm going to transfer to a bigger college to get my engineering degree.
I actually want to end up as a pilot when I'm older, and I'm using this as a stepping stone because mechanics, they make a decent amount of money, especially when you're fresh out of high school, and I feel like I could use that to pay for my flight training and also already have an in.
Historically, after a program like ours, typically you go to the regional airlines first. Lately, because of the huge technician need, there's been more students going directly into American, Delta, United.
Still, the industry faces challenges with hiring. While working for an airline may be the most visible version of these jobs, they only employ 23% of the AMTs in the U.S.
Aerospace is just a fascinating industry that is only a small portion driven by airlines.
Experts say that a retirement wave is coming to the industry. The average age of a certified mechanic in the U.S. is 54, and 40% are over the age of 60. Only 2.8% are women.
I tried to warn people about this 30 years ago. If it takes me 10 minutes to inspect and inexperienced workers' work, and it takes me 3 minutes to inspect an experienced worker's work, it becomes exponential as you go down the line.
In 2024, GE hired 1,900 new engineers and manufacturing workers, but small companies are having a harder time recruiting.
80% of the maintenance facilities we represent are small businesses. They're doing it the same way they've always done it, by word of mouth, etc. A couple are very, very active in local schools.
It's changing. More and more states are looking to do aviation maintenance as a high school, or at least a hybrid high school college program.
But hiring isn't the only issue affecting the aerospace supply chain.
The biggest challenge we're having right now is getting new parts, engines. Training materials for us means like teardown engines or systems that are taken from other aircraft and put onto a board so we can teach students troubleshoot the faults and so on, and that's been hard to get because there's a shortage of supplies.
While the labor force has faced shortages post-pandemic, it's also dealing with shifting trends. In 2022, a survey of unemployed people in the U.S. showed nearly half wouldn't take a job that didn't offer remote work, a benefit not likely for someone who needs to physically fix an aircraft.
The entire world is going to feel this workforce shortage. You already can't get your houses built. I think that aerospace can actually lead the recovery of that, because we do need and want and can train and have trained the elite when it comes to these blue-collar work jobs that are available.
More workers have also been pursuing tech jobs over blue-collar.
I talked to a lot of people in the industry for 30 years that their damn children can't change a tire. For our folks in the repair station environment, the only barrier to entry is you having technical skills, knowing a screwdriver from a wrench, and the desire to learn, period.
Often what we see is people have a very dated view of what it might have looked like in the 1970s. I'd like to believe it's night and day. Just in the physical condition, the work that's being done, the amount of automation and technology. Of course, having competitive compensation helps, but a lot of the investment in training that we've made in our workforce and providing more of a career path is a key part of our retention.
The next generation of mechanics will also need to know about new technologies that are entering the space.
It is getting into the high schools and showing that a career in aerospace as an engineer, or frankly, on a production floor, is not your grandparents' manufacturing. You're dealing with the latest technologies. You're talking about laser-guided machine precision.
The demand on the air transport system will continue to grow as more people and goods will travel by air into the future. But the question remains on whether the already strained industry will be able to fill the jobs it needs to keep up with demand.
Every segment of our white-collar world depends on blue-collar workers. We have to recognize that those ranks will have to be filled by one of two things: either more numbers or technology. The airlines and the big boys are going to be able to automate things. They're going to have to invest in that type of infrastructure to be able to make the remaining technicians more efficient and effective, or they'll have aircraft on the ground.